Today is Human Resources Day, a day to recognize professionals who are truly at the heart of every organization. HR teams shape how we experience work, building inclusive environments, driving talent development, and fostering leadership. As someone who has been in this domain for the last 20 years, I've always believed that HR plays a crucial role in creating spaces where people don't just work but thrive. Yet, at the end of the day, we are human beings too. And the thing about human beings is that we are always a work in progress. We learn from each other, we grow by helping others grow. On a day like this, it is important to reflect on the profound impact HR professionals have in shaping careers and supporting organization through constant change. Careers, as you all know, are a topic very close to my heart, and the conversations I've had with people over the last 2 decades are what fuel my passion for the Career Shifts podcast. Good evening, friends, and welcome to the episode 18 of the Career Shifts podcast. If you've been here before, you would know that we explore journeys of individuals who have made significant career transitions. And if this is your first time tuning in, you're in for a deeply enriching experience because Career Shifts is all about uncovering the stories of those who have navigated profound career transitions in their professional lives. But before we dive in today, let me start, as always, with a story. It's a story about Mondays. For some, Mondays feel like, wow, what a fresh start to a new week full of possibilities to set goals, make progress. For others, it's more like, oh no, here we go again. Mondays often feel heavy, especially after a long weekend. Your social media feed perhaps is filled with memes expressing the collective dread of returning to work, whether it is organizing your day or it's getting back to the groove. Mondays can feel daunting. But what if Mondays didn't have to feel that way? For me, Mondays are blank slate, a day full of possibilities. It's a reset button, a chance to recalibrate, embrace new changes, and move closer to our goals with renewed energy. I remember back in 2020 during the lockdown when weekends and weekdays blurred together, every day felt same, but how we showed up mattered. We had to bring the same empathy and energy no matter the day. It was during at that time I discovered Bhavna's work. Her Mindful Mondays talks became my go to source for positivity and perspective. They offered not just motivation, but deep insights and leading from within. Inspired by her work, I reached out to her. We had a wonderful conversation and also ended up speaking to her community of people on reimagining careers during the pandemic. It was an amazing experience, especially during a time when so many were looking to redefine professional paths. Bhavna's work is a powerful example of how mindful leadership and inclusive approach can transform the way we lead and work. Today, I'm thrilled to sit down with Bhavna and explore her journey from a successful career in finance to founding Sheconomics, a platform that empowers women leaders. We'll also dive into themes that are especially relevant on this day: mindful leadership, fostering inclusive cultures, and creating workspaces where everyone can grow and succeed. So, if you have ever felt like running on an autopilot or searching deeper connection in your career, this episode is for you. Stay tuned for a conversation that just might shift the way you look at leadership, work, and incredible impact that people have in all of our careers. Bhavna, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic, Gopal, and thank you so much for having me on. I've been admiring these conversations you've been having for a while, and so glad I get to have one with you as well.
Absolutely, pleasure. Before we start to the conversation, do you have anything that you want to share with the audience?
I'm just happy to be here and excited to dig into whatever you may ask me today. I'm ready to talk about anything.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Bhavna, you've had a wonderful career in the last several years, and you kind of moved from, career in Wall Street, probably, to founding Sheconomics. A lot of people, though, may not know your career journey. For them, do you want to quickly walk us through what your journey has been and what led to you founding Sheconomics at the end of the day?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Happy to share. Looking back, I agree. My career has taken some interesting twists and turns. I began my career in New York, which is a city I ended up spending close to 14 years. I did my undergraduate education there and majored in economics. And so, right after graduating, especially being in New York, which is known as the financial capital of the world, there were so many exciting opportunities in the world of finance. And so, I began a career in finance. And in my 20s, it was just the perfect place to be. I was eager to learn. There was so much buzz and excitement all around me. And so I had a wonderful career. I was particularly in sales and marketing, and my last role was as a VP for business development at an investment management firm where I was marketing hedge funds to institutional investors. And then I went on to get my MBA from NYU Stern. And I think right after graduating, I did go back, I continued with my career in finance for a while. But for me, I think I hit a turning point, as many of us do, where for the first time we start to question if the work that we are doing is fully aligned with what's most important to us.
Yeah.
And so I just heard this voice in my head that would keep saying, Pavna, this isn't it, this isn't it, this isn't it. And at first for me that felt crazy, because here I was in the most exciting city in the world, had a great career, everything on paper, at least everything looked good, but yet this voice kept saying, no, this isn't it, this isn't your path, this isn't your path. And I didn't know what my path would be, but I knew that I owed it to myself to take the time to figure it out.
Mm.
And at the time, because I had just done an MBA in social impact, and there was a lot of exciting things happening in the world of social entrepreneurship in India, I thought, why not? Why not get away from the craziness of New York and find time and space for contemplation? Because it's very hard to sometimes to really take your life in a different turn when everyone around you is just moving at breakneck speed.
Sure.
And so I just wanted to come back to India, give myself that space to just experiment with other things and figure out what could be my path. And so after many years of experimentation, I think close to like almost 3 years of experimentation, I think two things happened for me that allowed me to make this career shift. One is because I was very actively working with entrepreneurs, mentoring entrepreneurs, advising entrepreneurs. I think I caught the entrepreneurship bug as well, and I knew I wanted to create something of my own. And I thought
Mm.
about what problem I am most passionate about solving. I think coming from the world of finance, which at the time, and I know still is to a great extent, was very male dominated, and I knew the kinds of problems I felt at the time, being the only woman in the room. And even though back then there wasn't the same kind of awareness around diversity or women in leadership, it just, when I looked around me, I saw so many opportunities to really support women around me in a meaningful way, and for me to take my experience and use the insights and learnings from that to be able to serve others. So for me, I knew I wanted to do something in the space of women's leadership. So that was one. And then secondly, I think also something that really became a transformational aspect of my journey when I moved to India is I moving to India was also a little bit of a spiritual quest for me, because
Hmm.
when I moved back, I was in search of these answers that I think many of us at some point start asking ourselves, who am I, and what is the purpose of my life, and how can I make a bigger impact in this world? And so I got exposed to so many philosophies, so many schools of thought, one of which that resonated with me the most was the philosophy of mindfulness, or diving within, leading from within.
Hmm.
And that is when I knew I have to marry my passion for women's leadership with my passion for mindful leadership, because I didn't just want to help create more women leaders in the world, and bring more women leaders into the existing world and set up. My hope and passion and vision, and still is, to yes, create more diversity in leadership so that we can create a kinder world, a more compassionate world,
Hmm.
a world that is led by leaders who are more aware. And that is how I ended up founding Sheconomics as a mindful leadership platform for women.
Wonderful. I mean, what a journey. I think I completely resonate with this thought that a lot of people have shared about what is my purpose? What is it that I want to be known for? What am I doing? And I think it typically happens at a stage of life in our careers when we have been fairly successful in whatever we have been doing. And I think there is something that still keeps calling us to say, are we on the right path? Are we giving enough back to the people that we are working with? And I think I can completely resonate with that, because one of the reasons why I started this podcast was around the same purpose, to be able to, give a bit back to the community of people that we all are part of. And if there is even 1% of people who find value in what I'm doing, and through stories of people like you, I think my journey is worth it. So thank you, folks tuning in. Feel free to share your questions, thoughts, comments on the chat. I'll pick them up on the platform. I'm also having the LinkedIn app open, so that in case if you're sharing any questions in there, I can pick them up for Bhavna. Um, Bhavna, when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, one of the most important element that I think we reflected upon was the whole personal branding piece. A lot of people in the current world context are going through a lot of content overload, if I can call that, because there is a lot of media, there is a lot of, I mean, social media is playing a big role. And at the same time, it overwhelms them, and they don't really take efforts to create their own brand identity. Now, of course, personal branding, one of it is through LinkedIn, which I think we'll get to in a bit. But beyond that, what are your views on why is personal branding important for people? What is your own journey towards personal branding, and any thoughts that you want to share around that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question and an important topic for us to talk about. Why is personal branding important? I think in an increasingly competitive and crowded, if you will, marketplace or workplace, however you want to define it, if we don't approach consciously creating our brand, and consciously, and by brand I mean consciously communicating who we are, what we stand for, and what are the powerful ideas that we want to advocate for that can also make a difference to others, it's very hard to stand out unless we do this consciously. And so I think with building a brand, and especially then going that extra step and asking yourself, how can I use the power of my brand to help others, which is how you then create a more powerful brand. That is how you can then really position yourself for whether it's greater growth in your career, expanding your business, making a bigger impact in the world. All of that becomes possible because this is something now you are doing consciously, creating the value that you can create for others, communicating that consciously. And I think for me, if you ask me my journey, it's not something that came to me naturally, to be quite honest, because like many people that I come across and whom I now coach, I too had the belief that my work should speak for itself. And so I didn't always make an extra effort to do anything, additional. And 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 the interesting thing with that thought is, of course, a lot of it comes from conditioning, where we feel like, we should be humble, and if we talk about our work, it's bragging and it's self-promotional. And and all of that, I've realized is so much of that is misguided. um, because especially if you're using the power of your voice to advocate for ideas that can help others, and the idea that you can share, the work that you are sharing can benefit others as well. And if you don't do that, for me, I almost feel like we have a moral obligation to share those ideas. And I think for me, this was really the realization that came over time, that okay, here I am, I want to make a bigger impact in the world. Um, and there's a lot of self-consciousness or fear of being judged that's stopping me from sharing my ideas. So for example, if I take a specific example, you mentioned Mindful Mondays, a series that I started during COVID.
Yes.
Originally, I had the idea to create that video series actually several years before that, and this in the pre-TikTok, pre-Instagram era. I think when there was only YouTube, I had this thought that why let's create these bite-sized
Right.
videos on mindfulness related topics that can really help people. But that sense of perfectionism kicked in, that imposter syndrome kicked in, that fear of being judged kicked in, and so I just sat on that idea for such a long time. And um, and I think eventually, for me, it was the realizing that, what's really going to bring me greater peace of mind, to go to end the day with this thought that, oh, great, today was a good day, no one judged me today. Or to be able to go to bed saying, today was a meaningful day because I went out there and shared an idea I believed in. I talked about this idea, even though my voice was shaking as I was sharing this idea, or my fingers were trembling as I hit post. Even though my inner critic was telling me to stay quiet, even though I knew there's some who may not resonate with the idea. And I knew it's going to be the second thing. It is always,
Yes.
and for I think for anyone watching this or listening, for all of us, it's always the second thing. We always want to be able to. What gives us more peace of mind is when we rise above those limiting beliefs and fears and put ourselves out there to in a way that also helps others. So eventually I got over it, and yes, I started sharing slowly, bit by bit. One speaking engagement here, one speaking engagement there, one post here, one post there. And bit by bit, I started building my brand. And now, it's been such a rewarding journey, especially every time I get an email from someone saying, um, your ideas really resonate with me, or your post was just the thing I needed to read today, to get resolution for something that I've been struggling with, is just, it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
So I think for all of us who feel that hesitation, it is about, reframing the struggle, and creating that perspective shift from being so me focused to actually being other focused, and asking, how
Yeah.
can I use the power of my brand and ideas to others? And I think that's what really helps us get over that
Yeah.
hump.
No, I completely agree. I mean, I was telling this to a friend the other day. I thought about starting this podcast probably 3 years ago. And yeah, the perfectionist syndrome always hits you, right? No, no, Are, you're not ready for this. You need to do this. You need to be able to have a large followership and blah blah blah. And I think I kind of silenced myself multiple times. Um, but then this year, when someone really asked me twice, I mean, a couple of people asked me, "Why are you not starting your podcast?" I'm like, maybe I should. And
Yeah.
I just kind of, uh, yeah, just pushed myself to do it. Um, and here we are on the episode 18, which is
Oh, wow.
thanks to all the guests who have been able to make this whatever successful the way they have been. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Bhavna, you brought in a point on imposter syndrome. uh,
Yeah.
Often when we speak to leaders, this is something that kind of has an impact on everyday business. What makes it
Yeah.
worse is career transitions itself, because what happens is you are an expert in one domain, company, organization, um, perhaps city, and suddenly you find yourself in a totally new domain, area, organization. You start second guessing yourself. Um, so, two questions. One, have you experienced it through your career shifts as well? And two, what advice would you give to people who experiences themselves as they navigate through their careers?
So have I experienced this? Absolutely, yes, in all capital letters. Absolutely. I think this is a familiar feeling for so many of us. In fact, I remember the very first time, when I talked about this idea of Sheconomics. It was all of us sitting around the table. It was all entrepreneurs, and everybody else was a seasoned entrepreneur, and we were all talking about our vision for what we want to do next. And everybody sounded so confident, and I could barely get my voice out. I was so in my head. The thought was, who am I to be doing this? Who am I to be starting this? So yes, I think it's a familiar feeling. What can we do about it? I think over the years, especially as I dove deeper into my mindfulness training and into my work, around positive psychology, I think there are two things that have helped me to reframe imposter syndrome in a way that really helps me rather than deters me. One is, every time I experience the imposter syndrome or self doubt, instead of asking what's wrong with me, I ask, what is this telling me about what am I doing right?
Mm.
And I say this because, think about, when do any of us experience the imposter syndrome? Do we experience it when we are comfortable watching Netflix with our loved ones? No, we
No
don't.
ways.
We experience imposter syndrome when we are in rooms where everybody else is smarter than us, or
Right.
everybody else feels like they're more successful than us, or we're challenging ourselves to do something that we haven't done before. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing. It means you are really pushing yourself in a meaningful way. And whatever happens, you will come out on the other end having
Mm,
learned something or having experienced meaningful growth by
mm,
virtue of having gone through that experience. So the mind being what it is, I think the more powerful questions we ask ourselves, the more powerful would be the answer that we get back. And so when we ask questions like, well, why do I belong in this room? Even though I may not be the most experienced person in the room, why am I a right fit for this role? Even though I may feel like I'm taking on more than I can handle. Why am I the right person to be talking about this on Gopal Iyer's podcast? The more, I think, the more powerful the question you ask yourself, the more powerful the responses you will get. And so I think for me it is about that shift, that I'm doing something
sure.
right, and let me first try and acknowledge myself for that, and then ask, okay, who else can support me with this?
Mm,
Who else who can I lean on for help
mm,
or
mm,
support
mm,
to
mm.
get through this obstacle or this challenge? Uh, and there's always a way out. There's always help. There's always help around if you're willing to look for it, if you're willing to ask for it. So I think that's been the biggest shift for me. And I think the second thing, which is a little bit more philosophical, but it's something that I personally really love, is this whole idea. I don't know if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell's work on the hero's journey. And
Mm,
so Joseph Campbell was this American mythologist who basically studied heroes from across time. And he wanted to understand if there's a discernible pattern across all heroes' lives. And what he
sure.
found that's truly fascinating is that there is a pattern that every hero's journey follows,
Mm,
whether it's a mythological hero or a real hero. And the one thing in common that every hero's journey has is that right after you get this, you say yes to an adventure, whatever that adventure
mm,
is. You're saying yes to a role, even though it's a bit of a stretch for you. You're saying yes to something that makes you that feels risky, or that makes you nervous in some way. So you say yes to that one thing. The very next thing that happens in the hero's journey is this instinct to then doubt yourself, like, oh my god, what if I
oh,
just said yes to? And every ounce of your being, when you realize, oh my god, what have I said yes to, it wants to actually resist moving further because of that fear of judgment, because of
interesting.
yeah, all manner of fears. And there's this really beautiful quote that Joseph Campbell shares, uh, of every hero when you're moving through the second step, is that the cave that you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. And this
Wow.
whole idea that eventually every hero does go through that cave, because right on the other side of that cave is the greatest growth, the greatest transformation that the hero is seeking. And I think for me, I always ask, whenever I do feel stuck, whenever I do feel scared, whenever I do feel that self-doubt, I'm like, okay, this is my hero's journey. I'm now at that stage where every ounce of me wants to go back, but I have to keep going. I have to go through this cave because I know I'm going to come out ahead on the other side. I know I'm going to come out as a better, more evolved version of me if I just say yes to this challenge and just trust that I have what it takes and I can find the help for whatever I may be lacking, and I can get through this. And so I think for me, those are two things that really help. Yeah.
I love the whole idea of cave and the treasure waiting on the other side. So, I mean, just today, I think I was going through a conversation about a potential session that I need to do, which perhaps I don't have enough and more insights to do. But I'm going to use what you just said to be able to overcome that fear. So, thank you for sharing that, Bhavna. Um, Bhavna, I want to reflect a bit on your journey as an entrepreneur. And it's one thing to have a very rock solid, celebrated professional career as an employee. And when you start doing things on your own, a lot depends on what you do, how you do it. Um, some people in the last, few years would have taken that path of doing things on their own. And um, I was talking to Jonathan Younger, who's an interesting personality in the field of freelancing. When he, shifted. I mean, he's written a lot of books, as well as he's a faculty member in one of the institutions in New York. One of the things that he said was the
Mhm.
first year, the second year, and the third year uh, plays a huge role in the life of an entrepreneur. Most often, people quit in the year two.
Mm.
And that's because what they realize is when they're working as an employee, things work for them. You have a strong support team, you have
Mm.
everyone taking care of you. But when it comes to being on your own, you don't have that luxury. And often it's in the year two that people start thinking about going back to, corporate world, corporate career, because the two reasons. One is, of course, the whole support system, but mainly not being able to sell, not knowing how to sell their services. Um, what were your experiences? Because I
Yeah.
think you have been in this world of entrepreneurship for a while now. And any advice that you would like to give to people who are
Yeah.
in that phase of not being able to figure out what to do to get more business?
Whew, the $1 million question, right? How do you yeah, it's been such a journey of so many learnings for me, and this is something that I'm still trying to master.
Yeah,
And to be quite honest, I think I still have much to learn. But in terms of what helps, I think if I was to put it really simply, is when you can when you can come from a place of deep empathy for the person that you are trying to serve, when you can literally put yourself inside that person's shoes. Think of one person in particular, to make it real. One person, and really look at the world from that person's perspective in terms of both what is this person aspiring to do in the world? What
mm,
are this person's goals? What's going to make life easier, or life or more meaningful for this person? So what are their hopes, dreams, and goals on one hand? At the same time, really ask yourself, what are what are this person's biggest fears, biggest insecurities, things that
yeah,
make this person vulnerable, things that this person does not want. And once you have truly understood that, to then ask yourself, whatever it is as an entrepreneur that you are trying to create in the world as a product or a service, how does that product or service either move this person that you're trying to serve? How can you help this person get closer to what they do want in terms of their hopes and dreams and goals? Or, and help this person manage, address, or overcome what they don't want. And I
Hmm.
think the more you can be fully aligned with that, then I think whatever it is that you are selling or marketing, it just starts to feel so much more purposeful, and it shows that you are really there to serve, and it's almost
Hmm.
it does the selling for itself.
Correct.
And when you're really coming from a place of service, and then when people who have experienced uh, your product or service, and when they start talking about it as well, that further underscores the value of what you're creating in the world, and then further helps you to continue marketing, selling, and expanding. So I think for me, I take a very mission oriented approach to this, and I think for other entrepreneurs as well, I think that's what it's really about. It's really not about you. I think it is about the person that you're serving, and the more you can solve whatever pain point for that person, or the more you can make life better for them, that's really the key to be able to market or sell or grow whatever it is that you are offering.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely agree. And I think that's why the world is moving towards extreme personalization and customization. Um, but yeah, the flip side to that, or perils of that, is not being able to scale, which is a very conscious decision as a business owner you need to do. Um, so I hear you.
Mhm.
I think, I mean, that also brings me to, a very interesting shift that I've been observing, which I'm not sure how you, I mean, you yourself took that shift as well a few years ago, but the whole workplaces concept today, as an industry, there is enough and more talk about workplaces the way it is, whether it is serving the purpose for solving problems for clients, or at what cost. And we also recently heard one of the cases where, unfortunately, as an industry, we had to lose one very young professional because of overwork.
Yeah.
In your experience as a coach, a mentor, I'm sure you're talking to a lot of people at workplaces. What do you see as a trend? And what is your guidance and advice to such people on how to manage themselves through these stressful times? Because I
Hmm.
often feel that you may not be able to change the whole world, but there is definitely something that you can do within to be able to manage some of these. So, any such conversations that you've been privy to?
So I'll share one really inspiring example, because this is the conversation I just had yesterday. So I was doing this group coaching session with a group of 5 women. They're all senior managers at this large, Fortune 500 organization, and we were having a conversation around what is the kind of leadership that they would like to practice, that really makes them feel proud. And as I went around the room, I just heard the most inspiring answers. And I knew, and you could tell, we could all tell it was genuine, because there was nobody around to impress. Everybody was just speaking their heart. And so the first person started speaking, and she's like, Bhavna, I really truly want to be an inclusive leader. I really want to create a workplace where really everyone can feel like they belong, men, women, everyone. Then the next person talked about this idea of servant leadership, that I really, really want to put serving my teams, my everybody around me really above and beyond anything else. And then another person talked about this idea of just leading with a deep sense of empathy and collaboration. And as I was hearing these women, I literally had goosebumps, because this is what we need. This is exactly what we need. We need more leaders who are intentional and committed to role modeling empathetic, kind, compassionate leadership. And when you do, I think when each and every one of us makes that commitment and we choose to lead from that place, the ripple effect of that is so powerful. It's so powerful. It's something everybody around you can truly benefit from and experience. So, coming to what we are seeing around us sometimes in some organizations in terms of toxic culture, I really do think it's a problem of leadership more than anything else. And which is why I'm so passionate about my work in creating more compassionate leaders, because I do think that is the answer. I think that is the answer. Because everything trickles down from there. I don't think it's just a case of saying, oh, it's just, a few bad managers, because I've also seen the opposite. I've had the good fortune of working with organizations where the leadership, and I'm talking the CEO and everybody around this individual, truly a role modeling compassionate leadership. And I've seen how the impact of that can be felt all around. You literally walk into these organizations, and you can feel that something is different. You can just sense it. So I do think it is a leadership problem, number one. And I think as a person who's working in these organizations, one, of course, if you feel like your well-being is really not, is taking a hit, it's not being prioritized, I do think it is important to try and find someone who cares, someone who can do something about that. Because I think from what I have seen, at least in my work, there are a lot of especially when I look at the DEI space, there's such well-meaning, passionate individuals who have these positions and who are genuinely committed to creating these kinds of organizations, inclusive organizations. So I think finding someone you can speak to speak up is so important. And then I think if even after calling it out, if you feel like really, the situation around you is not changing, I think at that point, then I do think one then has to just make a conscious choice. If you should, go somewhere else where you won't have to sacrifice your well-being, where you are going to be more, where you will feel that sense of belonging. And I think it's okay. It's absolutely okay to make that choice, because I think we all deserve more, and especially in today's world where there is now this increasing awareness around how important our mental health and well-being is. I just feel like that is not something we can shortchange. So I think it is a matter of, yes, doing what you can in terms of asking for help, asking for support, doing what you can in terms of your own individual actions to focus on your own well-being and the well-being of people around you. Is important. And then, yeah, like as I said, if you really feel like it's not the right place for you, I think sometimes we just have to take the tough call and
Right.
and
Right.
yeah, and make a different
Take a
choice.
call. Absolutely. And I think I'm not sure, but this is, I feel it's more a need that is coming up for mentors to be made available for having such conversations. And my humble request to anyone listening in to this conversation who's feeling overworked, overwhelmed, sometimes each one of us are just a call away, a message away. If you feel like talking to us, just drop us a message and we'll be there to help in whatever way we can. But the decision to seek help is yours at the end of the day. And mentors do play a huge role, right?
Mm.
And I think that's something that I can't overemphasize than this. Talking of mentors, Bhavna, have you had mentors in your career, and how have they helped shape your career in doing what you're doing today?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think mentorship for me has come in so many different forms. There have definitely been a whole bunch of people whom I deeply admire that I've reached out to, who have guided me, who have provided me advice. So yes, I think I'm a big, big believer in really reaching out to uh, a mentor that can help you, because I do believe when you are genuine about what it is that you want to do and in all the ways in which you want to serve, there's so many people who will step up and be so happy about supporting you. I have definitely had that. The other thing I would say is, I think mentorship can come in so many different forms. Sometimes it comes in the form of someone you can talk to and speak to. Sometimes that mentor is someone you read about in a book, or whose
True.
podcast you listen to, or whose course that you take. So
Yeah.
I think just this willingness to learn from anywhere and anyone is the thing that I think can really make a difference. But absolutely, I think I'm a big believer in mentorship, and I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't been supported by so many people along the way.
Wonderful. Um, Bhavna, today you kind of do a lot of work in the mindfulness space. Uh, for
Yeah.
someone who has heard this word but not really understood what mindfulness is, if you can take a bit of a time to explain that, and also walk us through how does that affect a leader's journey in their career.
Yeah, yeah. Great question. So mindfulness, I'll tell you what mindfulness is not.
Okay.
Mindfulness, I know often it's equated with meditation,
Mhm.
and it is not just about meditating every day for 10 or 15 minutes. Mindfulness is, how do you then bring that same level of conscious awareness to the other 23 hours and 50 minutes of your day? So it's about living and leading with a
Mm,
conscious awareness. So
mm,
more than anything, and the reason why I'm such a big believer of the power of mindfulness is it helps you build self-awareness. And self-awareness, if you look at the research on self-awareness, has now been called the meta skill of the 21st century. What does that mean?
wow.
Uh,
Yeah.
to build any other skill, to build any other leadership skill, you first need to be self aware. You want to be
Mm,
confident, you want to lead high performing teams, you want to be more emotionally intelligent. Take any other leadership goal that you might have or leadership capability that you want to build. And it all begins with you first becoming more self aware, aware about, and even with self awareness, there are two core dimensions of self awareness. There's internal self awareness in terms of how you see yourself and you being able to take the time to understand who are you, what's important to you, what are your strengths, what are your um, areas that you still need to work on. What are your passions? What is a vision that excites you? What truly is a North Star for you that you want to move towards? So there are various pillars of internal self-awareness that you definitely want to bring your attention to. But equally, where mindfulness can really help, or the dimension of self-awareness that can really help, is understanding and appreciating what is called external self-awareness, which is, how do other people see me? What is the impact that I'm having on the people around me? How am I reacting or responding to the people around me? And the more and more you bring an awareness of and sensitivity to that, that's how you begin to shape yourself into a more aware, a kinder, and more compassionate leader. And both dimensions of self-awareness, I mean, have been now just proven without a doubt that self-aware leaders are more empathetic. They do create higher performing teams, because they are creating a more psychologically safe space around them, where everybody does feel like they can show up as their authentic self and take more risks and try new things and innovate more and create more. So take any measure of leadership success and effectiveness, and all of it rests on this foundation of self-awareness. And so that's really what mindful leadership is: leading with awareness.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I completely resonate with that, because one of the, so I'm a Hogan assessor. And one of the things that I did a couple of years
Mm.
ago was to take the assessment myself. And I just wished why I did not take the assessment when I started my career, because it gave me so much insights about who I am, the way I see myself, and the way the world sees me. And that just made a huge difference in the way I lead. So completely
Yeah.
agree with you in terms of how much self awareness is important. And I mean, I really love the way you explain the whole mindfulness part, um, into the whole, the way the leadership and the leading with awareness works. So thank you for that. Bhavna, you do a lot of work today as part of Sheconomics. Anything that you want to share
Yes.
as part of how people can, you know, I mean, know more about what you do, the work that the organization does, and how can people get benefit out of that?
Yeah, thank you for asking me that and giving me an opportunity to share. So Sheconomics, as I mentioned, is a mindful leadership platform for women, and by that, what I mean is we support women in living and leading in a way that feels truly authentic to them.
Hmm.
So this is not just about making sure all women turn into CEOs or leaders in that traditional sense, but it is about ensuring that all women feel supported in building the confidence, the courage, and the capabilities to be able to make the biggest impact that they would like to make according to their definition of success and happiness and meaning and purpose. And so we really focus on creating that balance of what we call inner work and outer work, really starting from that place within, which is why our tagline is women leading from within. But at the same time, we take a very practical approach as well, in terms of how can we support women in going out there and really making a bigger impact, but making it on these principles of mindfulness, of with kindness, with awareness, with compassion. And so, yes, we've been doing this work now close to a decade. Next year, we are going to
Wow.
turn 10. There's going to be a
Wow.
big party. Gopal, you are invited as well. I'm already inviting you to our
Sure, sure.
celebration. Um, and And yes, it's been quite a ride. It's been quite a ride. We've worked with over 200 leading organizations from around the world, in really supporting women to live and lead in a big way. And yes, we have a number of programs that we offer that any woman can take advantage of. And for now, what I would say is you can definitely learn more about us on our website, sheconomics.com. And just one small announcement that I would make now is something that we began this conversation with, Gopal, which is what you asked me when you said, why is personal branding so important? So one thing
Sure.
I am very passionate about is women having a bigger voice in the world, and really feeling that they have the courage and the capabilities to really go out there and advocate for the ideas that they most strongly believe in. And so to support them to that end, we're doing a online summit, a small online summit next week, October 3rd and 4th. And it is
Hmm.
completely free. So anyone who's listening to this or anyone watching this, Gopal, maybe we can share the link in the
Sure.
comments
In
or
the comments. Yeah.
wherever we can share the link. Uh, I would just encourage anyone and everyone, who believes in creating a kinder and more compassionate world, a more self-aware world, where all of us are showing up as the best version of ourselves. Come join our mission, come join our movement, and let's have you use your brand and your visibility in a really powerful way.
Incredible. I think I'm sure a lot of people would be interested to know more. So if you can share the link in the comment section after the session, I think that would really help. I will, in the interest of time, I know it's quite late in Singapore, and I mean, thank you for sitting through the last hour or so. I'll quickly move to a quick rapid fire, and this is just
Yes.
few questions, and then we kind of can wrap this up. So, favorite book?
One book that I really love is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. It's a
Okay.
beautiful spiritual exploration of who we are and how to define meaning and purpose for ourselves in our lives. And I highly, highly recommend everyone go out and read it.
Wonderful. I will see if I can find the link of that book on Amazon and put that in the comments as well. Most inspiring woman leader you've ever met?
Oh, I've been so fortunate and so blessed. I don't know how to answer that question, but uh, I can quickly think of at least two names.
Mhm.
One is, a person I've had the opportunity to actually now, invite as a speaker for a lot of our events at Sheconomics a couple of times, and that's Shukla Bose, who heads the Parikrama Foundation. She was this incredible corporate leader and left everything to then just
Wow.
devote her life to providing education for slum dwelling children, and has just done an incredible work. And she's so passionate about serving. It always, every time I listen to her, I have tears in my eyes. She's her work is that moving. And another person, again, so inspirational, is this woman named Shabana. She is in Afghanistan, and she's created a school to help provide education for young girls. And imagine doing that in a
Wow.
country where you have such powerful forces that are completely against the education of the girl child.
Wow. So,
And imagine the courage it takes to be able to do that. And that's another woman who has just made a very, very deep impact on me.
sure. I can just imagine how tough it would be for her to do what she does, and kudos to her. Best career advice you've ever received?
Best career advice that I've ever
Yes.
received?
Yes.
Best career advice that I would say, I think I was fortunate enough to get this early on in my career, and now I literally shout it from the rooftops. for every woman that I come across as well, and equally applies to everyone, not just women, is we talked about mentorship. Yes, mentors are absolutely critical, but there's another kind of there's the specific kind of mentor that is even more helpful, especially I think in the workplace, and that's a sponsor. A sponsor
Mm,
who very simply, someone with power and influence enough to open doors for you and to create
mm,
opportunities for you. And so I think when we take the time to cultivate this relationship and create value for this individual so that they also then feel excited about supporting us, that can make a world of difference. I know it did for me in the first decade of my corporate career, and this is something I advocate to everyone. Yeah.
wonderful. And I think the world of sponsors is yet to be explored much more than what it has been so far. So I probably
Mhm.
another conversation that we should have on that. Um, your go-to
Yeah.
relaxation activity.
My go-to relaxation, it's kind of counterintuitive, but I love doing anything physically active. Anything physically
Mm,
active actually puts me into a relaxation or a relaxed state. Whether it's going to the gym, whether it's dancing, or one of my favorite, absolute favorite things to do is actually just going out for walks, and especially walks with my spouse. It's a tradition we've maintained for years and years and years. Every evening we go out for a walk together. It's done, of course it does wonders for our relationship, but even beyond that, it's just such a lovely experience to be able to share. And yeah, my favorite relaxation activity.
wonderful, wonderful. And the last one is a skill everyone should learn.
I think a skill that all of us can learn and benefit from is the fine art of combining assertiveness with warmth and kindness,
Wow.
because that's what we need, I feel like, as individuals as well as leaders, to be able to really assert our voice, our presence, our ideas in a big way, but at the same time to do it all with that sense of kindness and compassion and empathy and warmth for the people who would be receiving that message. So yes, I think that's the balance we need.
Lovely. Any parting thoughts for the guests or audience listening in today?
One, just I think one parting thought I'll leave, one dimension of mindfulness that we perhaps did not get a chance to dive into, and I'll just leave it as a parting
Sure.
thought. I know I've talked a lot about kindness and compassion, um, especially for what I have seen in my work with women, and I know this is not just limited to women. I do see a lot of people who are very, very harsh on themselves. We have
Mm,
these punishing standards that we're always moving towards, especially I think as high achievers and ambitious individuals. And so the one thing that I think, especially even in my journey, that has helped me the most, in fact, paradoxically, that's helped me in actually doing more and in achieving more, is practicing self compassion, which
mm,
is being kinder to yourself. Because when you are kinder to yourself, you deal with the imposter syndrome in a
mm.
much better way. When you're kinder to yourself, do prioritize your well being that we spoke of. When you are kinder to yourself, then you do go out there and actually take bigger risks, and you show up in a more powerful way, because you, as your own best friend, you are out there supporting yourself to be the best version of yourself. And when you are kinder to yourself, you will then be kinder to other people as well. So my
Wow.
parting thought to everyone is, please, please, above all else, practice self compassion. Be kinder to yourself.
I don't think we could have had a more profound takeaway than this from this episode, because I completely agree. If we can't really be kind to ourselves, we can't be kind to others as well, because we can only give what we have, isn't it? So, with you on that part, thank you so much, Bhavna. Really appreciate you joining us today, staying through the entire episode, and inspiring us through your journey, your takeaways. Um, to everyone joining in, who are watching, listening, or would watch and listen later, thank you for being part of this journey and this enlightening podcast. I hope Bhavna's incredible journey from her career in finance and building a platform that empowers thousands of women leaders does spark new ideas on how you can lead with mindfulness, purpose, impact of your own career, and probably also practice self compassion. Leadership isn't about achieving success alone, it's about leading from within, staying intentional, and creating spaces where everyone else also thrives. Whether you're a leader striving for authenticity or someone looking to make a meaningful shift in your career, it is essential to align your actions with your values and take conscious steps towards growth. In today's fast paced world, where nature of work and leadership is constantly evolving, embracing mindfulness and fostering an inclusive, equitable culture is more important than ever before. It's through these efforts that we create lasting impact, not only in our own lives, but organizations and communities around us as well. I look forward to bringing more such inspiring stories and practical insights in future episodes. Until then, stay curious, stay intentional, and keep tuning into Career Shifts podcast on LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. See you all soon. Keep shifting forward. Thank you.
Thank you.